Welcome to the audio version of Conjured BTS, a BTS fanfiction by Zmelio. Episode 3, Amy and Jin. While Amy rushed to set up the game, Jin tried to make sense of what was happening. I swear we were in a recording session for Butter, and then I went home, dressed in my pajamas, and laid down to sleep, so this must be a dream. But why would I think of dreaming about playing video games with a teenage girl in America? I blame Yoongi. Somehow this is all his fault. He took a breath. It felt so real. What if it isn't a dream? He felt the fabric of his sweater. It felt right to him. He tugged on his ear harder until it almost hurt. If he could feel pain, it was real. He tried to bite his tongue. Ouch, he whispered. Amy turned and looked up at him. What did you say? Oh, nothing. He did his best to smile while cursing himself for biting his own tongue. What game are we going to play? Amy smiled brightly and turned back to the games. I was thinking Minecraft to start with. Okay, Jin replied. Though he hadn't really heard the answer, he squinted as he looked around the room. There were a few BTS posters on the walls, an RJ stuffed toy, and a Jin photo card tucked into a notepad on the bed. This had to be a dream. He remembered her saying it was a dream, or something like that. He looked back at her and thought, she's really an adorable kid. He did a double take. Was that English again? Even my thoughts are in English? Jin tried to slow his thoughts down. Even my thoughts are in English. That's odd. Jin, are you okay? When Jin composed himself again, Amy was standing in front of him, handing him a game controller. He shook off the apprehension. Of course. Just trying to get my bearings. Get my bearings? What does that even mean? Well, if this is a dream, my mind must be telling me something. Let's just play along. It's not every day I find myself in an army's home on the other side of the world. He looked a bit concerned, but he had a lot of practice putting nervous army. She looked a bit concerned, but he had a lot of practice putting nervous army at ease with a smile. Within a moment, she was back to excitement, and he took the controller. The game began, and she showed him how to cut down some trees, which he continued to do while she set up some sort of camp. He liked a certain kind of tree with white bark, so he went deeper in the woods to find more. And there he was, minding his own business, cutting down a tree, when out of nowhere his character started taking damage. Confused, he looked around the world, and there was a skeleton with a bow shooting arrows at him. He screamed as any normal person would. He tried to run, but another arrow hit him and he was dead. His side of the screen went dark. The camera view hovered over his dead body riddled with arrows. He yelled at the game, "Where did that come from? How is a skeleton just walking around in the woods? And who taught it about archery?" When his rage cleared enough, he began to hear it, the roar of Amy's laughter. His head spun towards her with a glare, and she fell over clutching her stomach. On the inside, he smiled at the scene, but on the outside, he threw the mother of all fits. "Did you know there were skeletons in the woods? Did you send me in there to be killed? How could you do that to your oppa? Do you have any respect for elders?" He paused to give her a chance to catch her breath before resuming the attack. It was fun to make her laugh. Maybe his mind was trying to tell him to laugh more, or to make others laugh, or to relax through the next comeback, or to appreciate Army more. Eventually, she recovered from laughter, relented, and started a different game. This one had something to do with farming. She told him he couldn't die in this one, but within minutes he'd figured out how to make his character collapse. "You said I couldn't die." Between gasps for air, she explained that he hadn't died, he had just collapsed. "How is that better? I'm in the hospital." Okay, she wheezed. "I've got this. I have to be quiet anyway. It's getting late. This game is the one. You won't die, you won't pass out, you just walk around and talk to people." Jin smiled to himself. He was sure he could stir up some kind of trouble. He explored the world until he found a character with a slight frown on its face. To be honest, the gray cat reminded him of Yoongi. Jin decided to annoy him. He talked to him continuously, followed him home, and kept him from sleeping. Finally, when he could tell that Amy was looking, he started to hit the cat with a butterfly net. She questioned him, "Jin, what are you doing?" The character in the game had had enough torture and decided to yell at him. "Sweet, sassy sarsaparilla," he said, "stop that!" Amy looked at the text on the screen and then to Jin, and his mischievous grin let out a loud burst of laughter that she quickly stopped with her hand on her mouth. Heavy footfalls approached from the hallway. Amy's eyes went wide and darted to her phone. She snatched the controller out of Jin's hand and threw them down as she turned off the screen. The lights were out and she was buried under the covers before Jin could even finish standing up. The door opened and Jin was bathed in light, staring face to face with Amy's mother. He panicked, thinking, what do I say? I can explain? Could I explain? I really don't think I could. Pretending will do you no good, young lady, the mom somehow yelled in a whisper. I heard you laugh out loud. Don't make me take your games away from you. Go to sleep. Then she managed to slam the door quietly, which he found perplexing until he realized the mom had just looked straight at a grown man in his daughter's room and said nothing. In her daughter's room and said nothing. What? How? He fumbled. Amy whispered. You were invisible to everyone, remember? It's magic. Oh. He had forgotten this was magic. That, or it was all probably a dream. Can you even go to sleep in a dream? When I wake up, will I be here or back to reality? As his eyes adjusted to the dark, he looked around the room for sleeping options. There was a stuffed chair in the corner and a pile of pillows on the floor. To be honest, I'm not sleepy at all. Amy, can I turn this lamp on? He heard no answer, so he spoke a little louder. Amy? He turned the light on and looked at her. Her eyes were closed and her breathing was deep. She had fallen asleep. I guess I'm finding a book to read. Jin had noticed there were books on a shelf next to the chair. He sat on the chair to look. The first thing he noticed were bobblehead toys on top of the shelf. He squinted in the dim light. Oh, Harry Potter. The toy version of Harry was flanked by his friends Hermione and Ron, and if Amy was a fan of Harry Potter enough to have bobbleheads, then surely the books were there too. Sure enough, on the top shelf was a complete collection. Jin wondered if he would get something different out of the original English versions. He picked up the first book and started to read. He tore through the book, chapter after chapter, until it was finished. He looked up, astonished that he hadn't fallen asleep. It seemed like time flew by and at the same time didn't pass at all. Dream or magic, Jin put the book on the shelf and picked up the next one, and the next, and the next. As Hagrid had said, what would come, and he would have to meet it when it did. Jin read and closed the book. Wow. These books hit different in English. Hit different. I knew English was full of strange phrases, but I'm surprised at some of the things my brain is cooking up. Cooking up? Jin sighed and looked over at Amy, still fast asleep in the dark. He rubbed his eyes and thought about reading the next book in the series. He leaned over to the shelf when a blaring siren-like noise made him shout. His arms flailed and knocked over the bobblehead toys from the shelf. That screeching sound, what was it? It sounded like it was right on top of him. He covered his ears, but uncovered them randomly to try and locate the sound. Then he figured it out. It was Amy's alarm clock.